over the last number of years now, we've done a fair amount of interviews on various things with tech. Prop tech is a big thing. BIM, there is just so much going on at the moment, which a few years ago we never really spoke about. And it's, this kind of technology is now playing such a fundamental role in probably development, architecture,
100%.
project management, QS, and so on and so forth. So it'd be great to get your input on this whole digital construction technology. Maybe you want to sort of just kickstart.
No, 100%. I mean, look, when I started here, our slogan as a company is "the future developed." So we technically, I had an opportunity as the head of projects operations to take that as literally as I could.
Right.
And ultimately, with a blank, let's call it whiteboard in front of me, the opportunity was there to set up the company from an organogram structure, but also to bring in the software that we could use technology to benefit from process-driven, mandatory requirements. The industry itself is obviously quite standardly paper-driven, hardware in terms
still
of
is,
and
surprisingly, in a way.
I've come from the other side of the fence where you spend 30-40% of your time, dev manager, property manager, PM, etc., doing 30 to 40% of your time spending on admin tasks that are repetitive and or not necessary. So by bringing technology at the right times and the right spaces, basically what we've been able to do, and the whole aim is to make sure what you're here for is your core business. So if you're a development manager, you're doing development management. You're not doing administrative tasks that are repetitive and or not singular in let's call it in direction. The opportunity we had then was to basically look at software as a whole and look at the opportunities we had. We identified Autodesk Construction Cloud quite early on.
Right.
But what we did differently was that we saw the benefit not only in terms of a process-driven approach, but also to benefit ourselves in our stage 1 to 4. Where I don't think a lot of people in the industry have used the software that's available, technology that's available during the design development stages to benefit us as the developer. And why I say that is that if we're a lot more flexible, a lot more finite, a lot more accelerated in making the decisions to get feasible, to get scope driven, to get design briefs sorted in those stages, we benefit on all fronts.
Yes.
So we've been able to move, as an example, I've used a case study of Santon Gate before, but we used ACC from the processes from stage 0 to stage 4, and within 3 months we did 22,000 squares of design coordination, which is unheard of. Almost to the extent that you can build, walk, talk, issue, and I mean that's the benefit we've had. Holistically also, we've tried to stay on an organogram structure, we've tried to stay staff conscious and keep the team small, and to my point of the team being here for what exactly they need to be doing and focusing on what they're doing.
By using this tech, does it mean that you're using less people?
Absolutely.
Because it's more streamlined.
Absolutely. So the way we've also set it up is we've placed key personnel between the team members, with the use of this technology. So we've got project manager, tenant coordinator, DM, with a centralized what we call a project coordinator role, or call it a digital project manager.
Okay.
And I like that because the digital project manager allows for the setup processes in the background. They allow for the ACC process to start driving in the background. They allow for the BIM protocols to start working. They allow for collaboration between the team members. And they act as a centralized administration point between each of the parties.
Okay.
And they take that administration, 30 to 40% of your time that you're normally spending doing these administration tasks out of your court. So the team's actually focusing what they need to do.
Right.
Yeah, none of the benefits
But
been
I
great.
don't think it's about reducing your team size. I just think it's about increasing their efficiency. Because I mean, like what Jacques was saying, 30-40% of his time previously was spent doing monotonous paperwork tasks.
Correct.
Where now he's gained 30-40% of his time back.
Right.
So you don't need such a staff-heavy workload.
I used the story the other day, an analogy with Dave Savage, who's our CEO, and I said to him, there's a story of 2 lumberjacks. And I don't know if you've heard this story, but in brief, it's basically every single day they get to work at the same time, they finish work at the same time, but the one guy carries on cutting down more trees than the other guy. And out of frustration, after a few weeks, he cornered him during a lunchtime. And he said, listen, how the hell do you manage to get more? I work as hard, etc., etc. And the guy said, I take a break and I sharpen my axe. The point is exactly that, is that the tools that you're using is what it's all about.
Yes.
And we've seen the benefit there, for sure.
That's right. So just tell me a little bit more about that. This is called ACC Build 550.
Yeah.
What is the sort of nuts and bolts of this product?
Forget the 550. So 550 is just your sheet
Okay.
cap. So this is Autodesk Construction Cloud, which is your common data environment, and Build is a tool set that construction companies can use for on-site project management.
Okay.
things from RFI management, issue management, asset management. You can set up your protocols and workflows in a way that allows Jacques to have oversight of the entire delivery process of a project without him physically being on the project itself. So what we found is that by working in a common data environment, everyone that's involved has access to information when they need to have access to the information, and has the ability to ask for information when it's needed. So what we've done, we've reduced the use of cell phone calls, emails, WhatsApps, SMSs, all these siloed approaches to communication.
Right.
And we've populated onto a common data environment where everyone can see everything at any given point in time, subject to the permissions set up at the beginning of the project.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But now, do you need all the other professionals to also be on the same system?
Yeah.
No. And
So
how difficult is that now?
The transition's been a little bit difficult, but I think once you've gained that traction, you've gained the user. Once they start using it and understand what the benefit is, and again to the point of a common data environment, what technically starts happening traditionally is that you start a project. Oh, let's set up a Dropbox, or let's set up a WeTransfer, or let's do this, and you deal with 46,000 emails on the processes. Where by the original start off, and you say this is how we're going to work. What we've done, so just to get a little bit technical, is that we share the ACC platforms and the licensing capabilities with our key architects.
Yes.
And the architect's the driver. Because at the BIM collaboration stages, which is stage 1, 2, 3, 4, although they drive through our processes, they actually house a lot of that in their BIM collaboration models. And what happens is we run a stringent review process. So we do hold points in the design process.
You do what, sorry?
Hold points. So
Hold points.
Call it gates, call it approvals, call it whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
But at concept review, ticked off, the model then gets moved into our home, which is Autodesk Construction Cloud. And therein is an opportunity for us to, at any point, like yesterday, walk through the model physically, first person, review it properly with the stakeholders. We had a full boardroom yesterday as an example where you're going through things, the guys are asking, but how's that signage going to work? You're able to go through, review, highlight, tick off, raise an issue. And as we go through these processes, the architect becomes a key point to that. And every 2 weeks he drives an upload, a review, and we speed everything up.
Yeah.
It works well. But to your point on change management, it's never easy.
I've been having this discussion with folks in the industry now for years, and it still seems to be the same issue. No one seems to be embracing this tech holistically, and everyone involved. It just doesn't make sense.
We've kind of been a bit selfish there because, again, to the point of a future developed, is that you want to work with Abcon Developments, this is the way we work.
And if you don't have that system in place, then you don't work with them?
Well, no, opportunity. So we say, great guys, look, we partnered with Modena, we have an in-house team, we're available to train. This is your licenses, this is how it works.
That's where you guys step in, huh?
Yeah, right. then we we're third party to them, and we say, guys, here's the opportunity. We have a gentleman sitting in the office available for integration, training, etc. Right. And we've written up pretty standardized workflow protocols that we hand out to the team right in the beginning of the project.
Yeah.
And we say, this is the opportunity, but we work in one environment.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I haven't had one consultant push back.
No.
And once they've started gaining traction, I think the biggest change difficulty has been the quantity surveyors.
Yeah. Okay.
And they don't see the value. But once they start understanding that they can walk through the models, understand, measure off the model, understand what's happening in terms of information issue, RFIs, variations, and everything's in one place, they start becoming a bit more comfortable. And I've seen it with the old school guys too. And no offense, I'm saying the grey-haired chaps. And they're like, pencil and paper, cigarette box. But this is
100%.
This is the way this is the way it's going, and change takes time.
Do you think the adoption, Warwick, is slower because maybe they're just too scared to try and embrace something new? It's tech. Is it a price issue? What?
Look, it's not price. It is price, but it's not. So the problem is a lot of the time the guys are looking at adopting these tools when the project's underway. And somebody has to pay for it. Yep. And a lot of the time it's the project. But if we can start approaching clients pre-build, when they're busy in their tender phase, and we can start showcasing the value that these tools add, the discussion changes. Oh. And, that's what we've been doing in the last 3 years. And that's, I can go back and go get stats, but there's probably been about 300-400% growth of construction companies adopting digital tools.
Okay.
And it's for reasons like Jacques now has the ability to do a project in Ghana, for example, where previously he didn't, because now he's got digital tools that can assist him to manage those projects, reduce his P&Gs, have a smaller workforce that's more efficient.
For me, it's crazy because I've got a portfolio, I've got a view of my portfolio on my phone. Yeah, I mean, I can review right
Exactly.
now, open up, and I can see where the issues are.
Yeah.
What's quite nice at my level in terms of reporting is also to understand where my problem children are. In terms of consultants.
Yeah.
Where's the design challenges? Where's our clashes? Who's not performing? Who's late on RFIs? Who's creating the most issues? And that allows me at a management level to also contextualize who the teams are performing and not performing. And that's a massive benefit. It does help.
Absolutely. No, very much so.
Yeah.
You wanted to talk about a case study, Santon Gate,
No,
as an example.
We successfully integrated.
Did you do that in first phase and you're doing it in second phase now as well?
So that was probably the first clean start on a project or development that we've done, that we integrated from the start, as in, we didn't bring in and adopt it halfway through the process.
Yes.
We elementally understood the concept, we brought it in, and the team around us, we said, guys, this is how we're going to orientate, this is our protocol, this is our BIM execution plan, this is how we're going to make it all work. And under the urgency that we had, and as I said, under a case study, what I think is beneficial is that if you have the right team and the right tools being used during the design development phase, you tick all the boxes. Why I say tick all the boxes is that there's no assumption. You remove the level of assumption going into a build. And what is nice on Santon is that Type have bought into the benefit and understand the benefit of the same software. So as a main contractor, he's now also part and parcel of the review process.
Yes.
He's part and parcel of sitting in.
Yes.
And he's technically allowed us to value engineer the build with him and with them. But ultimately what's happened there is that, and I give examples, 2.5 to 3 months to coordinate 22,000 squares, just by a process of architect leading, structural following, MEFP consultants moving in, us reviewing, clash detecting and uploading. And you're going 2 floors every 2 weeks. And you're able to do that, and you're able to pick up the issues. And you can go to ground. I mean, that's exactly the...
And you wouldn't be able to do it in that kind of time frame if you were not using this
Not
tech.
easily, and if you were still old school, I think that the word assumption comes up. How many times you get to a site? How many times you get to a site and you start building and you go, I didn't realize that was, I don't know, that beam was at 3.6. I didn't realize that the shop fronts were going to be at 2.8. I didn't, and the assumptions removed, because what technically happens is, to the point of silos, is that architect will design in his mind and he understands the project. But from someone at my level, where I may only have eyes on it once a month or twice a month, I may not be at the same level. So these tools and the way that the team works together and actually gets to a point in a common data environment removes that assumption. And it means every team member, even the QS, remains on the same page.
Yeah. You kind of would have thought that the QS was fundamental anyway.
Yeah.
They need to be part and parcel of this tech. So you're using it, so you've used it for phase 1, and you now there's that whole new retail section that's in place.
So that's what we used it on. Sorry, phase 2, just to clarify. The new one. The new one.
Okay.
The new build that's just gone to ground properly.
Okay, so what is your anticipation now with new build as opposed to phase 1, where you didn't use it?
I wasn't on phase 1.
You were.
So I can't comment.
No, but I'm talking about the tech now.
Yeah, so let me put it this way. The stage 1 to 4 benefit I've spoken about.
Yes.
The stage 5 is now with the contractor on board who's actually bought into it.
Right.
So at tender phase now for contractor, we have the contractors on boarded, as well as the selected subcontractors and subbies. Now the benefit there on the construction is what I'm looking forward to looking into. Because again, you're living in one common data environment, you're living in a communication stream that is open cards.
Yeah.
Now the open card environment, either like open as in, if I'm issuing a contract instruction, everyone can see it. If someone's RFIing or delaying, everyone can see it.
Right.
It becomes an interesting environment to live in, where before it would have potentially just been us issuing something straight to the principal contractor.
Right.
And then disappearing and or being resolved. Now you're living in a much more open environment.
Everyone's actually in the spotlight here.
Absolutely.
So everyone is having to pull their weight.
For the good and the bad.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And same thing, shop drawings
Hopefully
later.
more good.
Exactly. So what we've done, I think we're probably the first in the country, and I'll be proud to say that, is that we haven't just brought the Modena ACC adoption in just to treat certain aspects. We've actually workflowed the entire build process and design from stage 0 all the way through. So what I'm looking forward to seeing now, where we're using it in a couple projects now, Waterfall and a few others, on the construction side with all the subbies on it, I'm looking forward to the benefit, and I'll be able to report on that, because I'm convinced from a cost, time and open cards perspective that the responsibility is going to be owned by each person on the project. But what I was also looking forward to is that we've now integrated tenant coordination onto the system.
Okay.
So I think we've, as I said, I'm pretty sure we're breaking like
new ground here.
Yeah. So Michiel from Modena and myself are kind of workflow oriented, and we spend hours on workflow diagrams and hold points and how we're going to get this right and how does this work. And we spent months. It's now been 4 months delivering this and testing it. And I'm comfortable now to say we've actually achieved something that I think is going to be industry first and become a standard soon. But we're trusting we're leading the pack. So tenant coordination now, just to simplify technicalities, is that if I get a technical pack from a tenant, I'm sending it out to 22 consultants. I'm receiving 22 emails. I'm delivering 22 coordination issues or whatever the case. So by the time you're done with one tenant, we averaged it out at about 78 emails. One tenant. That's besides the big boxes. If we can now reduce that through this process, we're looking at literally 2 review processes, allowance for 7 days for the entire team to review, plus the main contractor, plus the selected contractors. So you have everybody integrating to understanding what this deliverable is on a tenant.
Yeah.
So the tenant coordination I'm looking forward to.
And depending on the size of the centre, you could be looking at a whole lot of tenants.
57, 56.
Exactly. Which also now brings me to the fact that this software, this tech, is very adaptable.
100%.
Yeah.
You can sort of plug and play and create.
I don't think everyone understood the advantages of being able to create. Yeah. And I think that's why I say that the key team member from their side was Michiel. And Michiel and I talk a very similar language. And we workflow orientated. And the moment we started seeing, okay, but how about can we do this? Or how about we can do that? How about and as it started growing, we said, well, why don't we just do everything?
Yeah.
So we've got an activity-driven workflow process, and if you go to any point, let's say a feasibility upload or a review, for instance, or consultant budget, every single aspect of our activities, you have an opportunity to do it on ACC. If you choose to, you can. If you don't need to, you don't have to. But then the last part of what I'm looking forward to is the integration with our property management team. So we've now adopted the asset handover process also onto Autodesk Construction Cloud. So basically the simplicity of that is that my as-builts, my assets, my registers, my now QR codes associated to all our key assets are all going to be delivered on ACC, transferred over to what they're using, which is my buildings, very adaptable by URL backend and technicalities, with what should be an easy handover, because technically you're just packaging, exporting and moving on. What's nice is that with this technology too is that at any point, let's say 3 years down the line, because it's in a cloud environment,
you can always revert back to.
I can revert back to
an issue,
and I can revert back to photos, progress, status.
And what about facilities managers? They also would benefit from this.
100%.
Yeah.
But at the moment, as I say, we don't do the facilities direct, but ourselves as Strive and under the group.
But an FM company would have access to some of it, all of it?
Absolutely. The best case scenario is that you have your asset team who you're handing over to with a license on it and ability to access it at any time.
Right.
But as an export, it also works. So the availability and flexibility is there for both, technically.
Right.
So I'm specifically looking forward to those 2 stages coming to fruition now. We worked hard.
Yes.
We worked hard at it,
I just want to comment. I want to say Abcon Success is not subject to the use of the software. So what Abcon, Jacques and the team did was they said, okay, this is something we need to look at, but we're not going to be stupid about it. So what they did along with Modena is we created all the theory back end, all the workflows, all the processes, all the training, what works, what doesn't work, ironed out all those pieces. And now in the last few months, we've taken whatever theory we've developed and we've started implementing it on site. So Abcon and the team really have looked at this holistically and said, listen, we need to change. But it's going to be a slow process. We need to manage the change management, and by doing it this way, you can see the results.
Yeah, and I can say as well, it's not a perfect world. I think it's something that it sounds and comes across like it's perfect world, but it's like anything. As you integrate, you see tweaks, and what's nice with us is that we call it iteration management or iteration improvement. So when we started, we put a framework out to the team, and because we've got extremely skillful, knowledgeable team members, we've allowed the team to grow. So we've said to the guys as well, use it. What don't you like? What do you like? And we've done that throughout our entire process.
Right.
And I don't like this. This doesn't work for me. And through iterations, we touch base every 2 months, 3 months. And if the guys have got an improvement or something doesn't work or this workflow, part of the workflow just doesn't make sense, or it wastes my time and I'm spending 30% of my time on something that shouldn't be done, or I shouldn't be doing this because I should be focusing on getting the thing built, then we tweak. And we're busy tweaking. I think we're easily 6 months away from the perfect scenario.
Right.
But we're getting there.
No, think that's very encouraging. Tell me, does Modena have like open space, that reality capture technology that you put on your? You guys using that?
I'm not using open space. They offer a product.
You've got your own?
We've got our own.
What is it called?
We partnered with Faro, and they offer
Faro.
So Faro is the largest point cloud scanning system in the world.
Okay.
And part of their service offerings includes a product called HoloBuilder.
I know HoloBuilder.
Yeah.
Yes.
So HoloBuilder is OpenSpace's direct competitor.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this something that you would look to embrace?
Yeah, I think the human factor at this moment in time overrides it. It's definitely something we want to get into. And I mean, to the point of Modena's gave me a 360 camera through a revamp process at Leaping Frog, and it was great because what it will do eventually for us, and I see the value, but I think we are about a year away from it.
Okay.
Is again to the point of being remote. If I have a Cape Town project, I'm not hands-on, for instance, but my team is. You're able to have the capability to give that to the contracts manager or a foreman or whatever the case is,
yes.
and once a day, once a week, he walks through that.
He can walk through and you can see.
And I can see. But also the benefit of that is also to the point of what I said at stage 6, is if I'm handing over, I can always timeline progress, go right back to understanding what happened in that wall, expose when it was drywall versus plaster, understand where the conduit runs. There's the ability to also have that knowledge, and I think that knowledge is something that is the biggest benefit on that. Clash detection, collaboration, model. I think the pace we build in South Africa we had such a hyper intensive speed to get to site. By the time we get to site, the focus on purely just getting information out. Where I think European market and American market lends itself to more, okay, let's check, let's have the time to assess. We will get there. I think we'll get there. But the pace we're running at, for me to have a review of a 360 camera right now versus flying to Cape Town and hands-on checking it, I don't see the benefit yet.
Are we fast tracking too much? Would you say?
We
just trying to get it finished.
We fix on site.
Okay.
That's the nature of South Africa, in my opinion. It's figure out inside, and I think the transfer in culture to the digital technology will come. Where already, if you're on site now, I have the phone, I can review the model, look up and do the comparison. It's moving that direction. I just think baby steps. Get the guys on board with one portion of it, and I found that with the team. And to the point of, are they okay to be adopted on this? They're slow in the upcoming. And to overwhelm them then again with, okay, but compare the photo to the model and do this, it'll get there.
It's too much for now. Okay.
Yeah, but it's great benefit.
100%.
It's a great benefit.
Well, we've seen in the past with some companies, when they want to adopt too much, they kind of fail because it's too many changes all at the same time.
Right.
So firmly understand.
And the point is, you need to be a fay with each one of those. You can't now embrace the entire thing. It's too overwhelming.
Abcon's just now digitized their whole construction delivery process. Now to add a 360 camera program to that might just be a tipping point.
A step too far.
Yeah.
And in terms of advances on this tech, I mean, what how do you improve what you have already, which seems to be working pretty well? But I mean, there's always upgrades. There's always things that are changing.
Yeah. So both companies, Faro and Autodesk, are pumping huge money into their research and development. Looking at HoloBuilder, for example, we've now got an integration where we can import our point cloud models and compare point cloud against point cloud. Okay. We've got the ability to compare point cloud against Navisworks and Revit models. So we've always got that better ability to look at our design intention and compare that to what's being currently delivered on site.
Right. And also you get feedback from the clients.
100%.
Say, listen, hang on, this would be nice if you guys could actually include this into the system or whatever.
We've spoken about the improvement on the cost management. Because I think if the cost management starts working, and it does, I just think, again, the adoption of the QS front will be very different. And I think if you have the collaboration of the cost management in that, the system's almost perfect. I think that's the weak point right now, to be honest, and I think we've discussed it. And I think you guys are working on it.
Yeah. So cost management is a tool set within ACC Build. But our biggest challenge now is getting QSs onto the cost management system, because they're using other software. That's 99% of the industry is using it.
That's right. Which doesn't it can't work with this tech. You can't integrate it.
No.
Okay. You either have to chuck that away and then jump on board with this.
The problem is, and this is discussions we've had with Autodesk, is to say, listen, there are competitive tools in the market that not only allow you to manage the cost on the project, but integrate your payroll and A, B, and C. If we can start looking at offering the same tools that the competitive products offer within ACC, it will be a little bit easier to create the adoption for the for the quantity surveyors in the industry.
I'm with you.
Interesting. Opportunity out there, I think.
Yeah, lots of opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm seeing here now, is that there is just so much opportunity to not only save costs, not only reduce our whole budget, but also build better.
Yeah, can I tell you, so, I mean, historically, and I always quote Dave Savage on this, I mean, they've redlined throughout their life, and redline is the word here, and so historically, we're redlining, we're marking, we're checking, and on a 2D flat layout, you can redline all day. You're going to miss something. And what's exciting is, I mean, I'm here early morning, and Dave will often, and Bryce specifically, will often bump into me in the middle of my big screen in my office, walking through first person, looking around the building, understanding what's going to happen, and marking up and raising issues. And it's a different way of doing it, because redlining again is a level of assumption that I have, that I mark up physically and maybe missed. And somewhere down the line, someone forgot about the fact that I said to them that we should have lifted the entrance, or whatever the case is.
Right.
Where in this, when you're walking through physically, you get that full 3D dynamic, and already the old school and new school, the guys they're forgetting the paper now, and they're wanting to see what's going on there. So how does this look in 3D? How do I get in there? What's the level? How do I, what's the curb heights? And that becomes something that's crazy that this team specifically have loved.
Thank you. So,
coming from a historical red line.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And a lot of old school here too.
Yeah,
That goes back a long time.
Taken some time to convince.
No, exactly.
And some of the times, like they say, bullshit baffles brains, but we're getting there.
Yeah, but if you think about it, you take Dave and Tace. I mean, they've been around forever. I mean, they have built some incredible developments without this thing.
No, 100%. And to be frank, you can, and you will.
Sure.
And people will continue to do that. And just coming back to efficiency is exactly it. It's just, can I do 12 simultaneously? Can I do 15?
Yeah.
Or what's my capacity as a team member?
Yeah.
Am I able to then explore and manage my processes much quicker?
Yes.
And efficiently. And that's a team member now can handle 4, 5, 6.
Yes.
And be able to have a dashboard orientated reporting mechanism where throughout the project, that's perfect world.
Yes.
Problems happen, and the human factor is part of it. And if you have to have the human who's got this too.
Yeah, that can't work without it.
I've been reading a book now, The Diary of a CEO, and one of the chapters there is it talks about you can't control your beliefs, but you can influence them, and the influence happens with some of your senses: taste, sight, touch, feel, what you hear. And by having this ability to virtually immerse yourself into a 3D space and understand what's going on, the belief system is going to change, because now we're able to change the belief system based on a visual approach, where the old guys might look at a 2D plan layout and that's all they know. They haven't been exposed to the 3D environment yet.
Right.
So it is going to be a process that does take time, but it will eventually replace the 2D plan red line markups.
I mean, even you guys had to go through the theoretical, it wasn't like, we're going to embrace this and we're not going to use it.
It's a slow process.
It's a slow process.
Yes.
And the same with all the others.
And unfortunately, it will remain a hybrid process. It will always remain a hybrid process, because in front of a leasing team, it's all good and well to have a 3D model, but that flat paper is always best.
Yeah.
You won't escape the two, and you'll never live in one and not the other.
Yes.
You'll have to make the best of both. But at least you know where that piece of paper is hiding in electronic format when you need to try and find it, instead of trying to find 16 files on your email. Yeah. That's the way we're trying to get to.
Exactly. No, exciting times, man.
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely. It's certainly going to improve a lot of functionality in the property construction and development phase. Super. Is there anything else? We've covered some really good ground. Is there anything else you want to add to?
I'm hell of excited. Like I was saying, I think we all under 45. We all 10 plus years experience.
Exactly.
And each of us, what's been so dynamic is each of us have brought something back from the industry that we've been in, or parts of the industry we've been in, amalgamated it, put it into a pot, and said, okay, well, maybe that's not the way we want to do it, or that's the way. So it's been, but it's not all butterflies and rainbows.
No, I know
it's
that.
been a lot of hard work,
and
it's still going to be a lot of hard work. But we're getting there.
No, you are.
We must thank these oaks as well. They've been great.
But to be honest, we wouldn't be able to do what we do if it wasn't for clients
Exactly.
like Abcon. So Abcon has literally pushed the envelope for us as well,
Yes.
because we haven't had the ability to fully digitize a construction and property development company.
That's right.
So, as much as they are complimenting us, we must just say thank you to you, because we haven't had the chance to.
Correct.
So now with their success, we are now able to hopefully start digitizing more construction companies and pushing the envelope with them, and then slowly digitizing the industry a company at a time.